Hi Archers! Today we're beginning the best and strongest hero showdown. I'll be going through all 5 heroes in depth to determine which of the 5 is the strongest. This will be a 6-part series, each hero having their own in-depth dedicated video. In the last video, we'll be concluding which hero is the strongest. So this video is also a guide for the said hero. We will be starting off with our poison hero, Uracil. We'll be going through the best abilities and items for Uracil, his pros and cons, and the strongest and best weapon to use for Uracil. And once we're done with all of the heroes, a full comparison between every hero. This way, you'll know what to spend your hard-earned money, gems or coins on, and in the end, if it's the hero for you. My name is Teeds and I make many Archero videos from guides, tier lists, gameplays, updates, and more. Please do subscribe and click the bell for more Archero content. Let me preface this by saying that this is all based off my experience, research, and opinion. In the end, you may or may not agree with me. Remember, it's up to you to decide which hero is the best for your personal playstyle and taste. All heroes are great in their own individual way, with abilities that can be useful for different situations. So, Uracil is most likely the first hero you'll get. Why? Because he's free. After you reach Chapter 2, Level 1, you'll be able to unlock your first free hero, which is Uracil. We'll be analysing his damage and also see how well he does with the stacked poisoned items. Let's begin with everything you need to know about Uracil. Uracil is a hero who specialises in poison. He has 550 health and 120 base attack, which is 50 health and 30 damage less than our base default hero, Archero. In return, we gain his special ability. His special ability is Venom. His attacks will cause an enhanced poison effect. He cannot pick up Poison Touch, so you cannot stack the Poison Touch with his special ability. While he can pick up other abilities that have the poison effect, it will not stack on his ability, rather it will have its own independent tick damage. Venom deals a poison tick per second on a target. You must hit the target once to apply this to the target, and it will stay on the target until it dies. This effect does not reapply or refresh when you hit the same target, so you cannot speed things up or speed up the tick damage. If you were to increase your attack with attack boost, it will not affect the damage of his venom poison. It will always stay the same and will always be based off the original base damage you started with. This also goes for rings. For example, the serpent rings increase damage towards ranged units. The venom effect damage will not increase, however. It will always be off your base damage. Venom deals 40% of your base damage. So for example, with no items and a base attack of 320, Uracil will deal 128 per tick. If I equip my level 40 Death Scythe, I now have a base attack of 1063. This means Uracil will deal 425 poison per tick. It's really weird, but in the game it actually says 426, however mathematically correct it should be 425. Some games don't round up their numbers correctly, and that's fine. In comparison, Poison Touch only deals 30% of Uracil's venom attack, which means Poison Touch deals 10% less than his special ability. Moving on to the best abilities and gear for Uracil, first, let's address something that would be super fun to do, but not viable to do, and that's the Poison family. In the Poison family, we have Poison Touch, but we can't pick that up as the Poison hero. Then we have Poison Circle, Toxic Strike, and Poison Sword. There is another poison ability called Toxic Star, but because I have not reached the chapter to unlock it yet, we will be excluding this ability. And there is another ability by the Spirits that also has a poison ability, but I've never used it before and I don't think I will pick it up, so I won't have anything to say about that ability either. If we were to stack all of these items together, we'd have a lot of poison damage going around. With all of these abilities, you only have to apply it once to the target and it will stay on them forever. While this is really fun to do, I would not recommend using this strategy if your goal in the run is to beat it. Toxic Strike is a good pickup, but Poison Sword and Poison Circle are just too circumstantial, as you do need to be close to the monsters to apply it. With that being said, there are just too many abilities that do better than Poison Sword and Poison Circle. Instead, I would recommend picking up Pierce, Ricochet, Diagonal Arrows, and Bouncy Wall to easily apply this to different targets. If you're running Tornado, do not pick up Ricochet or Bouncy Wall. You should have an easier time applying Venom to enemies due to the inbuilt Pierce effect and speed. In regard to the Epic Void Robe, which is an armor piece with a special effect of poisoning all enemies in the room, even on Uracil, in my opinion, this still does not make the armor piece viable in comparison against Vessel Dexterity. The dodge chance in Vessel Dexterity paired up with the rings is just such a strong stat. Being able to dodge a whole attack from an enemy is pretty unbeatable. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of Uracil. So, the pros of Uracil. The poison lasts until the target is dead, so there is no need to reapply the poison. Because of this, you can focus on dodging attacks as the poison damage will be continuously ticking. If you manage to hit a target that is in a hard to reach place, the poison can tick them off slowly while you're dealing with other enemies. However, this can be hard to pull off depending on the situation. For some fun run and experimental runs, stacking different poison abilities on a single target on an enemy is pretty neat to watch. And the cons of Uracil. The tick is slow and the damage is not that high. You must hit the enemy at least once to apply the venom, so this makes it hard for targets that are in hard to reach places. I can see Uracil not being viable in later chapters where even an epic weapon isn't enough to fly through monsters. Uracil relies on having to hit pretty much a bunch of enemies to make it really useful, as this effect is pretty much great if you have hit multiple enemies. That way you can gain the benefit of slowly killing enemies while just targeting one. But a big con to that is that sometimes it's just not easy to reach all the enemies, especially if your skill RNG doesn't make it easier for you. Last but not least, the best weapon for Uracil. First, let's talk about the strongest weapon based on numbers. I've calculated every weapon in its level 40 epic form. For comparison, I've used our base hero Archero. We will not be factoring in the base crit. The first weapon we're going to analyze is the Tornado. Here is a graph between Archero with a Tornado and Uracil with a Tornado. We will be factoring in the return damage. As you can see, Archero's base damage is overall higher than Uracil's damage, but let's add the bonus damage of Venom to Uracil's Tornado weapon. So on one enemy per minute, Archero deals 150,942 damage per minute. Uracil deals 146,531 damage per minute. From these numbers, Archero's damage is higher. Now we'll add the poison damage. Venom poison ticks every second for 425 damage. Remember, this damage number is 40% of our base damage. With Venom, Uracil's damage is now 172,043 per minute, meaning Uracil in the end deals 21,101 more damage than our base hero per minute. This may be obvious to most people that Uracil is a lot stronger than Archero, however I do understand that some could be thrown off by that 30 more base damage, so I hope this has given you more insight. We just needed to use Archero for comparison's sake. Sorry bud. A few things to note before we move on to the next weapon. Uracil can apply poison to multiple enemies, so the damage per minute is actually a lot higher if applied to a number of enemies. This is base per minute, but it usually does not take a minute to kill a single enemy unless it's a strong boss. Okay, moving on to number 2, the Saw Blade. Archero deals 136,656 per minute, Uracil deals 132,662 per minute. With Venom, Uracil deals 158,174 per minute. Number 3, the Death Scythe. Archero deals 136,229 per minute, Uracil deals 132,248 per minute. With Venom, Uracil deals 157,760 per minute. And lastly, the Brave Bow. Archero deals 113,661 per minute, Uracil deals 110,339 per minute, and with Venom, Uracil deals 135,851 per minute. Okay, so now we have all our numbers. From these stats, we can determine which weapon in its level 40 epic form is the strongest with Uracil. Uracil's DPS is highest with the Tornado weapon. However, it's good to note that the Tornado in general just has a higher DPS than the other weapons. The Tornado is considered the second strongest weapon in the game, so it's not surprising that the DPS is higher. But there are a few things to note when choosing what weapon you want to use when you have the epic. To save time, here's a little visual image that describes each weapon. Considering these factors, which weapon is the best for Uracil? This is based on my opinion here, as there are so many different outcomes and situations with the weapons you want to use. But I have to say, the Tornado is the best weapon for Uracil. Because Uracil only needs to hit the enemies once to apply the poison effect, the Tornado's fast speed and built-in Pierce enables you to do that pretty early on. Piercing potentially gives you the chance to hit multiple enemies, and you're most likely going to hit multiple enemies with a Tornado. But a good thing to note, especially for higher chapters where you're not really improving your gear as much anymore, there is no pushback on the Tornado, which can make it a bit tricky as enemies start dealing way more damage to you. The worst weapon I would have to say for Uracil is the Death Scythe. If your goal is to poison as many targets as you can, the Death Scythe is a bit slow to live up to that expectation. I would say the bow and sword blade suit the poison better than the Death Scythe, however the Death Scythe's knockback is just so strong. So if your goal is not to poison as many enemies as you can in one room, it should be fine. You just won't make the most use out of it in comparison to the Tornado. With Brave Bow and Sword Blade, these weapons are fast as well as making it easy to apply the poison to multiple enemies. Just grab the abilities I recommended and you should be good to go. And that is all for today's video. I thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe and click the bell to be notified for the future hero guides and in-depth comparisons and so on. We'll be exploring I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'll learn that for the next video. The Fire Hero. Any likes and comments would be super rad, and I hope to see you again. Bye!